Most people searching for a side hustle in 2026 are going to pick the wrong one. Not because the opportunities aren't real, but because they're applying a flawed selection logic from the start, choosing based on what pays fastest rather than what scales with the time they actually have. Before we get into the list, that distinction needs to be stated clearly. Because if you get the selection wrong, the effort is real, but the ceiling is invisible until you've already hit it. Let's start with your actual constraint. If you're employed full-time, you're working with somewhere between 2 and 4 hours of real productive energy after work. Not the number of hours between dinner and sleep. The number of hours where your judgment is still intact and your output is worth anything. Most side hustle content ignores this. It's built around the assumption that motivation solves the time problem. It doesn't. When your baseline is exhaustion, the work harder logic collapses quickly. The correct frame isn't how much effort you're willing to apply. It's how much output you can generate per unit of that limited energy. That's what we're actually trying to increase. Your income per hour over time, not just your total hours worked. That shift in framing changes which models are worth your attention entirely. To make that comparison useful, everything in this video is organized into 3 tiers. Tier 1 covers quick cash activities, high saturation, low barrier, short time to first income, typically 1 to 3 weeks. The ceiling is real and structural, not temporary. Tier 2 is skill-based services. These are filtered by competence, which reduces saturation. Time to consistent income runs from 1 to 3 months, depending on positioning and execution. Tier 3 is asset and platform building. Longest delay between effort and return. Highest compounding potential once the return begins. One of these tiers looks like the obvious starting point for most people. One of them traps you in a model that grows only as fast as you can personally deliver. And that ceiling becomes a problem faster than most people expect. We'll come back to that. Tier 1, microtask and data validation. Work. The demand for human verification inside AI workflows is real and growing. Companies building specialized models need people to validate outputs, flag errors, and label niche data sets. This isn't general survey work. The more technical the domain, the better the rate. Setup difficulty is low, while the skill requirement is minimal. Starting cost is effectively zero. The income framing here needs to be honest. This is direct time for money exchange. Some people report reaching a few $100s a month at consistent volume. The work stops when you stop. There is no compounding mechanism here. Its correct role is narrow but specific, generating cash flow while you build something in a higher tier. Treat it as a funding vehicle, not a destination. Tier 1. Short form. Video editing. Demand for edited short-form content has expanded significantly as more creators and businesses scale output without scaling their own time. The gap between people who need this done and people who can do it reliably is still meaningful. Entry-level editing tools like CapCut cover the basics. More advanced client work moves into DaVinci Resolve or Premiere. Most beginners with a small portfolio reach their first paid project within 4 to 6 weeks. That range shifts based on how quickly you can produce demonstrable samples and where you distribute them. The leverage move in this category is packaging. Editors who transition from per video rates to monthly retainer agreements shift the model from transaction to continuity. That structural change is what moves Tier 1 behavior toward Tier 2 results. Tier 2, AI-assisted content and copywriting services. This category is widely misread right now, and the misreading is expensive. AI tools have raised the floor on content production. Average output is faster and cheaper to generate than it was 2 years ago. That's precisely why competing on volume and speed is the wrong move. The market is already adjusting to AI-generated content, and when clients can feel the difference between fast output and strategic output. The actual leverage play is using AI tools to increase your production speed while competing on strategy, structure, and positioning, not on volume. Writers who understand persuasion, audience psychology, or SEO architecture are not being replaced by the tools. They're being separated from writers who aren't developing those layers. Setup requires working knowledge of at least one AI content tool, plus a demonstrable understanding of your chosen specialization. Some writers in this category report consistent monthly income ranging from a few hundred to a few thousand, depending on niche, client quality, and retainer structure. That variability is real. Positioning determines the outcome more than output volume. Or Tier 2, automation and workflow services for small businesses. At almost every scale, are looking for someone who can map and simplify internal processes using no-code and low-code tools. This includes connecting platforms through tools like Make or Zapier, building lightweight client dashboards, automating repetitive reporting, and structuring CRM data flows. The skill requirement is moderate. The saturation level is genuinely lower than writing or design because fewer people are comfortable enough with systems logic to package it as a service. A portfolio of 2 or 3 documented automations, even built for your own workflow, is enough to start positioning. Time to first project varies, but the model has structural advantages. A well-built automation is sold once and runs repeatedly. That moves this category toward Tier 3 behavior over time. Tier 2. B2B short-form video systems. This is a more specific version of the editing category, and the distinction matters. Every working professional with an audience building goal in 2026 understands they need short-form video content. Most don't have the time or the systems to produce it consistently. The service being offered here isn't just editing. It's a repeatable system that takes existing long-form content, extracts the high-leverage moments, and formats them for distribution. The positioning shift from I edit videos to I build a content system for your personal brand changes the client conversation, the rate, and the retention. Platforms that streamline clip selection and captioning reduce the manual hours required per deliverable, which protects your margin as you take on more clients. Here is the layer most income content skips entirely. Every hustle on this list is being pursued by a large number of people with access to the same information you have. Saturation is real, but saturation isn't the primary failure mechanism. Context switching is. If you spend your 2 available evening hours moving between 3 different income models, you make fractional progress on all of them and measurable progress on none. The hidden cost of most digital side hustles isn't the startup cost or the learning curve. It's the attention fragmentation that comes from treating optionality as a strategy. The deeper issue is model mismatch. Most side hustles fail not because the opportunity doesn't exist, but because the model chosen doesn't scale with the time the person actually has available. If a hustle requires you to be responsive to clients during your working hours, it isn't a side hustle. It's a second job with worse boundaries. Real leverage means the work you complete at 9 p.m. continues producing value the following morning. That's the structural test, worth applying to every model you're considering. Tier 3. Niche newsletter and audience asset. In an environment of high AI-generated content volume, curated signal has genuine value. A tightly focused newsletter, built around a specific professional audience rather than a broad topic, creates an owned asset that sits outside any single platform's algorithm. The setup cost is low. The income timeline is long, 6 to 12 months before meaningful monetization through affiliate positioning, sponsorships, or digital products attached to the audience. The leverage, once established, is structural. Reaching 10,000 subscribers takes the same effort as reaching 100. The work compounds in a way that time for money models don't. Platform dependency is a real risk. If your primary lead source changes, the growth model shifts. Building an owned email list, rather than relying on a single acquisition channel, reduces that fragility over time. Tier 3. Digital products and templates, prompt packs, mini courses, workflow tools. These are created once and sold repeatedly through platforms that handle delivery and transactions. The startup cost is low. The time investment is front-loaded. The ceiling depends on distribution, how visible the product is, how relevant it is to a specific audience, and whether you're directing traffic to it or relying on platform search alone. This model rewards people who are already serving a specific audience or creating content in a defined niche. Without an existing distribution channel, the build time is longer and the result is less predictable. That's the honest framing. The selection question isn't which hustle is best in the abstract. It's which model fits the constraint you're actually operating inside right now. If you need income movement within the next few weeks, Tier 1 is the correct entry point. Accept the ceiling deliberately. Use the cash flow to fund the transition to a higher tier rather than staying in the model indefinitely. If you already have a professional skill, writing, systems thinking, communication, design, Tier 2 lets you convert that into a service business with genuine scaling potential. The move is packaging and positioning, not just performing the skill. If you have a 12-month view and can absorb a delayed return, start a Tier 3 asset alongside your service income, not instead of it. Alongside it. The most common mistake is tier mismatch, overreaching into Tier 3 before you have income stability, or staying in Tier 1 indefinitely because the friction of moving up feels too high. Income follows leverage, not urgency. That's not a motivational statement. It's a structural one. Every model in this video either builds leverage over time or trades time directly for money. Knowing what you're doing and choosing it deliberately is the difference between a side income that compounds and one that plateaus. Start with your actual constraint. Pick one model that fits it. Run that model long enough to generate real data, not on whether the concept works in theory, but on what your specific execution produces in practice. Stability first, expansion second. That's not the version of this conversation that gets people excited. It's the version that holds up past the first 3 months.